My goodness. Good people, good people, good people. I am out of retirement. I had stopped podcasting, but I could not resist anymore. There are so many things happening. And as a podcaster, we're always looking for things to talk about. I know for me, I'm always looking for a way to talk about spiritual lessons. And this Shannon Sharpe situation just brought me straight out of retirement. Wow. I hope you are well. I hope you and your family have everything you need and more. This is Bad Thought Therapy. I'm Shree Hardy. I'm back. I don't know for how long because I have my schedule, my plate is very full. And you all know that I'm a full-time educator, full-time business owner. So I had to give up something. I know, we want to do great things. And sometimes you just can't do everything at the same time. So I want to thank you for listening and sharing. Bad Thought Therapy is going to be back. So unless you are from Jupiter, you probably heard about the Shannon Sharpe situation. And that's what I'm going to call it throughout, the Shannon Sharpe situation. Someone has alleged that Shannon Sharpe did something very evil to her. Shannon Sharpe has come back and said, no, he didn't do it. This is a setup. All over the internet, everybody's talking about everything. But what I don't hear, well, I do hear, some people are talking about it. I want to specifically talk about the spiritual lessons, the things that we can learn from this situation. When something happens to others or even to ourselves, of course, deep inside, we need to look for what can I learn from this? I'm one of those people, I believe that life, that the classroom or school is a metaphor for life. So every single day we have an opportunity to learn so that we can be better human beings. And because we're better human beings, the people around us will be inspired to be better human beings. We're given a date of birth, we're given an end date. In between that time, I am convinced that the Most High, God, wants us to be our very best. And He wants us to be a source of light, a source of wisdom, a source of love, a source of generosity and kindness, all those wonderful things. That's not always easy, but I do believe it's possible. And that's what I want to talk about. So I want to talk about the spiritual lessons from the Shannon Sharpe situation. This is heartbreaking for so many reasons, and I'm going to get into it in just a few moments. Again, I want to thank you for tuning into Bad Thought Therapy. Don't forget, I'm still on social media. I'm not as active, but I'm going to, now that I'm coming out of retirement, so to speak, I'm going to try to devote at least one day to do some more posts. I tried to post something on Instagram, and it was a great quote about worry and praying, and I'll try it again later. But go to my Facebook page, which is, the handle is Bad Thought Therapy. On Twitter, which is now known as X, the handle is Lose Bad Thoughts, and you'll see a great quote about worry and versus prayer. It's a great quote about prayer. Now, I'm just speaking from my heart. I got to do my hair. I got to do some lesson plans. I got so much stuff to do. But I had to say something finally. And before I say anything, I always try to get facts and details. But really and truly, and I've said this before, it's not about Shannon Sharpe as a human being. It's about the lesson that we can learn from his situation, because there's so many powerful lessons. So if you're listening to this on Apple or Spotify or any other podcast platform, just know that I'm using slides. I am going to submit this to YouTube, but it's just like 3 slides, so there's nothing to see, and I'll be talking. I'm going to change the slide now, but all I'm going to be doing is talking and just sharing the things that I think we can learn as a people from what has happened to Mr. Sharpe, which is very sad, and what has happened to the alleged victim of this situation. It's tragic on every side, and I just want to talk about the spiritual lessons. And I know that I will probably never talk to Shannon Sharpe or get to meet him, but I hope that, God, I wish he could listen to this and and maybe it could help him, because I'm going to be sharing some things that I believe God has led me to share. So peace and abundant blessings to you. I'm going to keep going. Thank you again for listening to Bad Thought Therapy. All right, let's get started, beautiful people. So again, I want to emphasize that we're focusing on the spiritual lessons, and I like to use the classroom as a metaphor for life. I am convinced that every single day, everything that we experience can be used as a lesson, and a lesson to teach us how to be better human beings, how to be wiser, how to be more compassionate, more sensitive, more loving, but most importantly, how to be the way God wants us to be. It doesn't matter, the enemy works overtime to distort our thinking. And it doesn't matter what we think. Ultimately, our soul, our lives belong to the Most High God. And we will give an account to Him. It doesn't matter how much money you get. It doesn't matter how many friends you have. It doesn't matter all the material possessions that you acquire. At the end of the day, when we leave this earth, we came in naked, and naked we're going out. We cannot take any of this stuff with us. We can't take our fame. We can't take our material possessions, our money. None of that matters. What matters is, are we pleasing to God? Are we doing the things that God deems as righteous, as good, as wholesome? That's ultimately the lesson. And so the spiritual lesson number one is, we have to make sure that God is first, that our minds are on God, that our thoughts are on God, that everything we do is guided and directed by a personal relationship with God. No one can convince me that you can talk to God, and prayer is not just, talking to God and, telling Him what you want or your goals, or, telling Him about your problems. Talking to God is also listening. Communication is always a two-way street. It involves speaking, but more importantly, it involves actively listening. And I don't believe that God would direct any man, any woman, to focus on, engage in practices that are perverted, and that clearly reveal that we're distorted in our thinking. Because God, you see, this is the thing that hurts me the most, is God never created us to just be lustful beings and to act on our lust. He created love for us, where we are in monogamous relationships, and there is love, and that love, yes, can be demonstrated in a physical way. But most people, for whatever the reason, they've taken love out of everything. They're not afraid of getting money. They're not afraid of dying. It doesn't seem like they're afraid of dying and going to hell, but they are afraid of losing their money. They're afraid of love. They're afraid of love. There are people who literally they're so afraid that they will not let themselves, they can't love another human being. And I listened to Jason Wilson. He's been, doing a book tour. If you're not familiar with him, he's written 3 books, I believe. And he's one of the leading people to talk about toxicity, masculine toxicity, or, men in relationships and emotions and all of these things. And he talks about why many men are afraid of commitment, and it's because they're afraid of being vulnerable. They're afraid of, having their emotions exposed, and what comes with that. And my thing is, and I get it, I totally understand it. But when you walk with God, God will lead you to a righteous woman. He will lead you to a safe place. He will lead you, and he will heal your mind, where you won't be seeking out lust. You'll be seeking out love, and you will find it. I'm convinced of that. But because as in general, we've gotten so far away from God, and we let the world is now dictating what we have, how we think, then you get in situations like what Mr. Sharpe is in. So the number one thing we got to do is, we got to be in communication and connection with God all day, every day. The metaphor that I use, or the demonstration that I use to my students, is that My laptop, I'm on my laptop right now, I'm recording this with my laptop. It's plugged up, but if I unplugged it, it would work for a while. But if I never re-plugged it to the source of power, it eventually will just totally cut off and never work. We're like that. We can never have and never be all that we're to be when we're disconnected to the Most High God. We can't just pray for God to bless us with material things or, I don't know, fame and fortune. I don't know what people are praying for. But I marvel because there's no way a person can tell me that they know God and that they can engage in dark and perverted practices that involve pain. And, I don't know everything. I don't know Shannon Sharpe personally, but I do know what he revealed himself after this allegation, after he was accused of doing something very evil. He released some text messages between him and the alleged victim. And I saw this one show, they focus on law. They reveal some of these messages. What was disturbing to me was that clearly the young lady involved in this situation needs psychiatric care. And the fact that a grown man who's old enough to be her grandfather would be involved with someone who needs this kind of psychiatric care and all the other factors that involve in this, it was so disturbing to me. And it lets me know that I don't care how much a person says God, you can't be connected to God and be in this deep. And that is what's so painful to me, that the enemy just comes in and he will distort people's thinking, and it is just grieving. And they don't know, in the end of the day, not only you could lose your stuff on this side, but you also can lose your soul. The greatest lesson we can learn, that nothing is more valuable than our soul. Nothing is more important than being in good standing and right standing with the Most High God. What does it profit any man to gain the whole world, to get riches, to get fame, to get fortune, and to lose his soul? Nothing is more important. And the enemy doesn't do new tricks. The way that he gets so many people is he gets them through this thing called lust. And when lust is not understood, it is not managed, it is not looked at in the way it needs to be looked at, people will let themselves give in. And lust leads to loss, it leads to pain, it leads to suffering, and the number one thing it leads to is your soul not being in right standing. That is what hurts more than ever. But what we can learn, this is a reminder that we must, and I'm not talking about religion, because a lot of times I want to emphasize this. I ask people, how is their spiritual life? And the first thing they'll say is something like, well, I go to church, or I don't go. I just said, I didn't ask you about church. You know, Religion is man-made and is man-centered. Relationship is when you're in that quiet place and you are personally talking to God and God is speaking to your heart. He will tell you when a pit is a pit, when a snare is a snare, when a trick is a trick. You cannot tell me, if you're talking to God all day, every day, that you will be engaged in certain evil practices. And so my heart grieves because this has come out, and it is a stereotype. It is that this is what we do, or some people do, and it breaks my heart. It does not have to happen. If you're listening to this, you may not be rich, you may not be famous. Just know that nothing else matters but your soul. To get right with God is to talk to God, to listen to God, to every day, what you feed yourself with, what you put in you, is what's going to come out. Like, our behavior is determined by what is in us. Our spiritual life ultimately is what determines what we say, what we believe, what we do, what we think. And I use this metaphor. I take a glass. If you take a glass and you fill it with water and you turn it over, the only thing that's going to come out of that glass is water, because that's what's in it. If you sit and watch filth all day, if you talk to people who are filthy, if you watch things that are dark and dirty, and that's what you put in you, that is what you're going to crave, and that's what you're going to seek out. And eventually you're going to be engaged in that. And I'm not talking about what I think. I'm talking about, I've seen this up close and personal, where a person could fill himself with filth every single day, all day. and then try to enact on that and what it cost him. The person, I mean, just a waste of sales, just nothing good coming out of his life when it could have been that way. But that's what will happen. So Shannon Sharpe is rich and he's famous, and he has influence, but guess what, there are people who are not rich and famous and they still dealing with the same things he is, because of lust, because of the separation from God. And I just encourage anybody to get into that quiet place and to surrender to God. You don't have to understand the one who made the sun and the moon and the planet. You have to understand about everything about God. You can't use your logic to understand something or fully understand something that is spiritual. God is a spirit, and you got to be really careful, because again, religion is man-made. It uses all man-made materials to get you drawn in. Religion could be good if it's going to draw you and push you closer to God, but that's usually not the case. Religion is focused on you being connected to man. But I want to encourage you, if you will put God first and you will have an intimate personal relationship with God, your life will be different. You will go from just, surviving to thriving, and you will see a pit for a pit. God will draw closer to people who are trying to draw closer to him. He will get near those who are trying to get near him. He will speak to you. He will show you the truth. He will heal your mind, because your mind has to be sick. If you can engage, we're not talking about the evil thing and the thing that goes against someone's human rights. We're talking about what Mr. Sharpe released himself, what he has released. I've used to watch his show, things that he said about what he does to women, what he takes in order to be able to do to women. All of these things are very disturbing, and they're so disheartening, because unlike a lot of people, I really believe that Mr. Sharpe is an intelligent man, that he's brilliant. Like, people would make fun of him and, trying to kind of minimize his intellect. No, I believe he's intelligent. I believe he's handsome, but I know the enemy when I see him. And the enemy has gotten a hold of this thing. And you can get money. And see, this is what people forget. People think that when you have a lot of material things and you are rich and famous, people look at that as a blessing. I heard a lady say to me once, and I never understood this, but I spent time thinking about it. She used to say, the devil blesses people too. And I said, really? And I thought about that for years and years, because I didn't deny it. I didn't understand it. What I realized is that the devil, the enemy, will give you things. You're not blessed, but he will give you things so that he can destroy you. God is the only being who can bless you. But the enemy can give you stuff, and then you think that stuff and that money is going to be enough for you to be able to keep doing whatever you're doing, and you forgot about the thing that counts the most, is your soul. If you die today, is your soul right with God? Are you pleasing to God? It's not about your money. God will need your money, and he's not impressed by that. The world is. The world is all about get more things, get bigger things, get better things. Yes, okay, some of us need just some basic things, but I understand very clearly how this happened, and it's because when you don't have a relationship with God, when you put everything above your relationship. And I'm gonna tell you how I know this, because if I were Mr. Sharpe's advisor, the number one thing I would tell him to do, and it would be hard for him to do, is for him to shut down everything he's doing right now, to take a hiatus, to take a sabbatical and say, you guys, for a month, I won't be on the air. I'm going to do some spiritual work. I'm going to reconnect with the one who gave me the physical ability to do what I did on the football field, gave me the ability to have whatever I have. I'm going to shut all this down for 1 month, and I'm going to go on a spiritual journey. He needs to be rebaptized. I'm serious. And he's not probably going to do it because, and this is what frightens me, because when I saw after this happened, because I hadn't been on, social media for a minute. And then I heard about, his name coming up and the accusation. I was just hurt because I love the show. I actually watch Club Shay Shay, I watched Nightcap. Some of the things that he said were disturbing, but I just said, okay, everybody has their flaws and faults. I never thought it would be a fall like this, or this would come out. I didn't know it was as bad as it is, but nevertheless, um, when I saw what had happened, I said, wow. So I looked at the show again after all this happened, and sure enough, he was back on. It was like as if nothing ever happened. And this is what people don't understand. You need a moment of contrition. When we read scriptures, and if you use the Bible in the right way, what you will discover is that when people had an experience with God, they isolated themselves. They got alone. They went to the mountain. They went out further than anybody else, farther than anybody else. And they had those quiet moments alone with God. And that's another powerful spiritual lesson. We need quiet time alone with God. When we are, as a business owner, as an educator, we got people constantly contacting us and, emails, phone calls. We're trying to make all these things happen. And in our busy days, we can put, trying to maintain all this stuff, the stuff of the world, we can put it before the thing that counts the most. And that is the Lord and quiet time with God, because nothing else matters. You can get all this stuff, you're not going to take it with you. But if you lose your soul, it's eternal. And I believe that. I'm just one of those people. I do believe that there is something happening after this life. And I'm not convinced. Nobody can convince me that what Mr. Sharpe has engaged in, which he voluntarily said, and the videos that he's released, and the things that he said that he takes to be able to do the things that he does to women, all of these things, I do not believe they're pleasing to God. There is nothing that can convince me of that. God created something called love. He's made male and female. He's created something that really will work, but I don't know what it is. So many of our men, there's some historical implications to why maybe it happens. There are a lot of social scientists and people that have looked into this. Why men are so afraid to love. Why is it that Shannon Sharpe is old enough to be this young lady's grandmother? Why would he not choose a woman who is closer to his age, who is mature, who can love him, who can be a helpmate to him? Why would he choose that and be at home enjoying his grandchildren and focusing on that and how pleasing that would be to God? It breaks my heart. And it happens over, and I'm getting emotional, I don't know why, but it happens over and over again. And there are some deep psychological things that have happened to us as African Americans in this world. But by now we should know that. By now we should see the traps and the tricks and the snares of the enemies. We can no longer claim that these things cause us to not love each other, because now we know it's time for healing. So that's the number one spiritual lesson. Number two, you are not getting away with anything. I've seen it happen over and over again. Again, going back to a situation that I saw, people just feed themselves with filth and perversion. And then, when you feed yourself with that, you're going to act on it. When they go out and they try to find somebody to do whatever they're trying to do, and when you don't want to participate, when you can feel that darkness around you and you don't want to be around it, it's almost like the person doesn't even understand. It's the most bizarre stuff. But what it does is it prevents that person from being the best that he or she can be. And again, it's so sad. So you have to understand, know the tricks of the enemy. You're not getting whatever you think you're doing. And if you're not connected to God, you're not going to see it until at the end, until it hits you in the head with a brick, or maybe in the afterward. I don't know. But it's always going to come up as something tragic in the end. Something bad is going to happen. And it's sad and it's bad when you see it up close and personal. The other thing is this. I cannot stress upon people enough that that we're here for a short period of time. Y'all, I was just speaking from my heart, and I got a little distracted. I got a little emotional thinking about something else, but we're only here for a short period of time, and I'm going to end this episode. While we're here, we should do as much good and as possible. And I'm not talking about doing good publicly and all that kind of stuff. I'm talking about doing good behind closed doors in our own personal lives. And when we get away from that, we just hurt so many people. Like I said before, I've really been hurt because, again, I had a lot of admiration for Mr. Sharpe, just even as a business owner, like someone who, he I don't know if he was terminated from one show, and then he created his own thing. I love creators, and he created his own thing, and he was building that brand, and it was beautiful to see, and it probably encouraged other people to do the same thing. I listened to Cam Newton, and Cam Newton was saying how Shannon Sharpe was, one of his heroes, one of his advisors. I'm sure there are a lot of black men out there who felt the same way, because apparently when Mr. Sharpe played football, he was really good at what he did. We were on 3 winning Super Bowl teams. He is in the National Football Hall of Fame and all these wonderful accolades. And still, this is what he craves in his life, in his personal life. And again, I want to emphasize, if you're not connected to God in the right way, your thoughts will be distorted, where you will think what is evil is good and what is good is evil. And that's what will happen. You will get fixated on things. And y'all, to see it up close and personal, it is disturbing. A person can really be depraved, and something can be just flat out unrighteous and dark, but they won't see it that way. And so there needs to be a cleansing. I pray that for everybody involved in this situation, that there will be healing. Clearly, again, he released the name of this person. He released these text messages. He released these videos. I won't get into it in this episode, but I know why he did that. Because a lot of men really do struggle with something, especially in the black community. They don't want to just come out with their struggle and why they have it. And again, it's about lust. It's not about love, and it's not about God. God is love. And he will put the right thoughts in you. You will feel what you're supposed to feel, and you will be natural and normal. And our men have gotten away from that, because again, if you feed yourself with dirt, that's what's going to come out. That's what's going to manifest in your life. So I just want to say to everybody, get those spiritual lessons. Number one, you've got to be in communication and fellowship with God every day, all day. That is what keeps you from being able to give in to the flesh. We all have crazy thoughts, and we're flesh. We're not in angel form yet. So if you are still human and you on this side, you have carnal things that you struggle with. But when you have fellowship with God and you submit to God and you resist our spiritual enemy, you will be able to survive, because he will flee you. He'll realize, okay, I can't get this man, I can't get this woman. Now let me go slither on down the road and find out who I can get. That's the greatest spiritual lesson. Number two, money and fame and fortune, in the end of the day, that's impressive to the world, but it's not impressive to God. You can't take any of these things with you. You can't take your money. You can't take your fame. None of this stuff matters to God. It matters to the world. I do believe that it's good to have material possessions that, you can live the best life you can. But if you have the material possessions, it's different from the material possessions having you. There's some people who get to a place where they feel like nothing can happen to them because they got money, they got fame, they got influence. All of that can be stripped away from you. Even on this side, it doesn't matter. What matters more than anything else is, are you pleasing to God? You got all this stuff, but is the stuff taking you away from having the right relationship with God to be able to make the best decisions? Another lesson, I teach this to my students, and I know that you've heard this 1,000 times. Character is what you do when no one is watching. Character is what you say and what you think when no one is watching. People can't see everything, but God is omniscient. He knows all. And your thoughts and what you do when no one is watching is not being hidden from God. Again, I can't emphasize that the greatest lesson for our lives is to live a life that is pleasing to God. You know, I I remember when my prayer life changed about maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago. I'd pray to God and just share, you know, just kind of tell God about my problems and what I thought I needed. But there was a point in my life when I learned that I need to pray to ask God to tell me what to do, to guide my footsteps, to tell me where to go, tell me what to say. I know that I can't take my next breath without God. I don't take that's another powerful lesson. Do not take God for granted. Sometimes people get so focused on this world and doing the stuff in the world that they forget that no, you don't understand. You can't take your next breath without him. And everything you have, he has given you and blessed you with. If it's from God, it is a blessing, and don't take it for granted. My daughter and I, we went out of town this weekend, and when we were driving, we were up in the mountains or whatever, there were accidents. There were people, and one of those accidents looked pretty bad. And when we got home, we got there, we got back, I was like, Lord, I thank you for your grace, because I understand that I don't have to get there alive. I don't have to be on this side. I don't have to have a decent measure of health or whatever the little things that I have. And I think that when we stay focused on God, and we're so grateful, we understand that everything we have, everything we can do, we breathe it because of him. Our lives should be centered around him. He should be first. He should be last. And if he is, instead of seeking lust, we will seek love. We will understand we don't have to be afraid of love when we are with people who are connected to God. Clearly, both of them are disconnected. And my heart grieves. I will be in prayer, because when you understand God is love and you get connected with him, you don't want to be in lustful situations. You want to be in a committed relationship with a righteous person who can love you, who has the right mindset. And I've seen it up close and personal. I remember just recently we went to the movies, and I got to do a whole podcast on this movie, Sinners. And I saw somebody, and I thought to myself, they out here prowling. They out here on the prowl looking for somebody, and so many people just look for another human being to use, whether it's for their physical gratification, whether it's for money. You'd be amazed if, I'm older now and I'm out of the game, but the men that look for women to use for money, and if they can't do it, they're not going to deal with you, because it's real out in these streets. But use people instead of looking for someone to love and asking God to show them a righteous woman, a righteous man. They're just looking for somebody to use. And they're out here, and that's another spiritual lesson, is that you got to be aware of these vultures. They're out here looking. And if you are not in tune and you're not walking with the Most High God, you will get God. Even let's say that Mr. Sharpe, he goes to trial, and let's say that he does lose the money that, whatever they're asking for, right? He will still have a lot of money. He's a wealthy man. The question is, though, his soul. That's the ultimate lesson. Our souls. And it's not, and I want to emphasize, it's not Mr. Sharpe. It's anybody. We all could be in any situation if we're not careful, because the enemy is working overtime. And you know what he wants? I heard a minister say this. My daughter's 30, almost 35. I heard this like 30 something years ago. This man said, the devil wants the best of us. He's not going after the bums of the world. He's coming for the best of us. And again, I see so many good qualities in Mr. Sharpe and about him. He wants the best. And if you focus on your money, and I've listened to him talk, he talks a lot about his money. If you focus on your money and just having wealth, and you think that that's going to make you happy and that's what's going to make you comfortable, you are deceived. Because that's the number one way the enemy gets you. Oh, you got this and you got that. No, if you don't have the Lord guiding you, He would never tell you to be involved with someone who is sick and depraved, mentally and physically in any way. He'll never put, and God will put the taste in your mouth. And when I say taste in your mouth, the desire, the right kind of desires in your heart, so that you won't become depraved and perverted and deceived. And y'all, I've seen a person, they had the potential to be a multimillionaire, but the only thing they were focused on was their lust. That's what consumed them from the time they woke up and the time they went to bed. And they got a spot on their toe, they worried about it. And I thought to myself, God, you're not worried about your soul and its lust? Or if you said recommended a book, they can't read a book because they can't have a voice in their head, but they watching filth and perversion every day, all day. Y'all, it's real. The enemy is real, just like God is real. We have a real spiritual enemy. And if you don't resist, and it's easier to resist when God is in your heart, when you're focused on Him, you will see darkness for darkness, evil for evil. You'll see perversion as what it is, and you will be disgusted. You don't even want this stuff anymore. You don't want it because you know it's not pleasing to God. You know it's not of God. It's not His will. I'm going to end with this. It's an old story. I've told it before on this podcast many times. I've told it to my students. But there is a story in Native American folklore, and it's really a parable, analogy of sorts, maybe even an allegory. It's about the two wolves, and every day two wolves fight within us. One wolf represents good and the other evil, and they fight every day. And the question is, which wolf wins? And it is the wolf that we feed. And the one that we starve, that's the one that will be weak and die. If you feed yourself with filth all day, every day, if you nurture your lust, that is what will be strong and will grow in your life, and that is the appetite you will have. But when you starve your lust, when you resist, you don't have to sit and watch perversion. You don't have to sit and you don't have to think about those things. You don't even have to do all that. You have a choice. God gives us man free will, and He does that for a reason. He doesn't force us to worship Him, to follow Him, to serve Him. It has to be based on will, because then that would mean if it wasn't, He'd be like a gangster, and God is a gentleman. But you feed yourself with the things that are positive, that are uplifting, that are empowering to you spiritually, by what you read, by what you watch, what you listen to, the people that you are around. That is what will elevate the spirit and strengthen the spirit in you, that you can overcome the lust of the flesh. So many people are just losing everything. When I say everything, I mean everything, because they feed their flesh with filth. And then when you do that, again, your appetite changes, and it's unquenchable. Lust is really unquenchable. It cannot be satisfied, and that's why I've seen it up close and personal, where they just go from one perversion to the next, and then they lose, because if you are around them and you're righteous and you're holy, or you know what your body is used for, you're not going to be around. You're not going to go for that. You're not going to compromise your health, and you're not going to put yourself in pain just for somebody else to be pleased. It's so sick. So keep those spiritual lessons in mind. The number one thing is, who owns your soul? God. Have you been pleasing to Him? Are your thoughts right? They're righteous. Are they good? Are they pure? Are they evil? Are they perverted? Are they distorted? You must understand it's a trick. And it doesn't matter what you gain. If you lose your soul, you've lost everything. If you were to die today, what is in our hearts? What's really, really in our hearts? I just want to emphasize the power of love. I know that it's very hard for some of us, to love. I'm still convinced, because God is love. that people, if they really genuinely would submit to him and open their hearts, they can find love. I hope that Mr. Sharpe could find love and allow himself to love so that he would not have to be guided by lust, and he would not have to let lust rule his flesh, but love, and he can commit to one righteous woman, age appropriate, and could really love him and share his days with someone who is good. It's possible. It is possible. So that's my podcast, the spiritual lessons that you can learn from this situation. Peace and abundant blessings to each of you. I am back. I'm out of retirement. Have a great day. Beautiful people, thank you for listening to Bad Thought Therapy. If this podcast episode was a blessing to you, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Please connect with me on social media. I'm on Facebook and Instagram, and the handle is at Bad Thought Therapy. On Twitter, now known as X, the handle is Lose, Lose, Bad Thoughts. Please connect. It would be so encouraging to me. I really appreciate you, and I wish you well in all your endeavors. You and your family, may you be blessed always, today and always. Take care.